Hello, everyone. My name is frankanthony, and welcome back to Let Me Be Frank. So this is episode 22 today, just a couple more episodes until the end of season 2, unfortunately, and then I'm going to take a month break to just do my writing and all that other stuff. But I have another special guest here this week. She is also an author, and she's all the way from Japan. So I'd like to introduce Natsune Oki. Hi, how's it going?
Hi, thank you very much for having me on your show. I'm doing great. Thank you very much. How are you doing today?
I'm good. I'm definitely super excited to have you on. I do want to say thank you. I'll probably say it at the end too. Thank you for also being on the show. And I've read so much about you, like the research I was doing. There was a lot of interesting and fascinating things about you. So I definitely can't wait for myself and the audience to get to know you more.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, me as well.
So yeah, just tell the audience a little bit about yourself and yeah, go ahead.
So my name is Natsune Oki. I am a host of Life Up Education TV. I'm also the author of the book called The Game of Self-Domination. I also have a company in Tokyo. It's called Foreign Connect, where I'm a basically B2B recruiter for international businesses. Okay. And also international project manager. So what I'm doing with that is basically I'm helping Japanese companies to expand their sales channels abroad.
Oh, wow.
And I'm actually connecting them with local services from America to basically coordinate everything, coordinate that to happen, right, between the companies. So that's Foreign Connect. And actually I've been spending a lot of times, I was rebuilding my site. So today I just got done with that and it was like, so a lot of work. But anyway, so that's a second venture I have. But my main thing, my true passion is Life Up Education TV. And just to give you a kind of a quick snapshot of my background, I was born and raised in Japan. I decided to move to United States when I was 18 years old. I moved there. I couldn't even speak English at all. Like I could say my name, for example, or like, how are you kind of, level. So it was kind of like a little bit struggle, but I managed to learn the language and I pursued a university degree. First 2 years I studied business and then I decided to, so just to kind of give you a more picture of who I am, I grew throughout my life, I have been very courageous person in general. So if everyone goes this direction, I go this direction. Like that's just how I roll, right? So given that, right, like no one, I'm from very countryside of Japan. So no one except me decided to go abroad after high school, for example, right? Like I was the only one student who decided to do that. I was scared shitless, but I still did it. And I basically did the same decision when I moved abroad, where, all the international students, friends I had at the time, their usual goal would be just get a degree and get a nice job at Microsoft or Facebook or whatever, right? But for me, it was slightly different. At that time, I already started, building up this very a strong passion and connection into the concept of entrepreneurship. I liked it because, I was so attracted to the idea that you can be independent, you can be strong, right? Like these are the things that always fascinated me. So I wanted to learn about that. And that's why I kind of decided to take some time off from school. So without completing the full degree with broken language and really no credential, I just kind of decided to just go out there and network my way to just get into American workforce and get the opportunity to work with other Americans, right? And specifically entrepreneurs, because I was really interested in working very close to them so that I can learn from them, right? At that time, I was still a student. But I managed to do that. And in that way, I kind of got really deeply connected into Seattle tech entrepreneurial community at that time.
Yeah.
And I got a chance to work with lots of, brilliant technology entrepreneurs. And the way I describe them, they're very macro thinkers, right? Like it's still business. So you would still have to have this thinking of like money tomorrow is more valuable than money in 1 year, 5 years, whatever, right? But then like they were thinking so macro about advancing the possibility of humanity using technology. Like they were interested in shaping up the world, right? Like it was just another level of thinking in the leadership and in the dream, right? Like it's more than the money. So I was super stoked by that. And I really, truly enjoy this feeling of everything is possible with the, you know, power of technology. So that really triggered me and implanted this idea of I'm really interested in my contribution to the humanity. So I really wanted to know what that is. What's that mean for me to be a leader who understands how I can contribute in humanity, like the advancement of humanity. So that was basically the beginning of the idea of Life Up Education TV. So after school, I decided to, so I was getting a little bit bored, right? I needed that struggle once again. Like I needed to be in a place where I didn't know nobody, like, you know, I didn't even like,
you like a challenge,
like, like super, you know, super crazy position. So I needed to be there. So at the time I kind of decided to move to Florida, Miami, because I always loved the weather and loved everything about it. So I thought, might as well, like, let's do it. And I struggled a lot, actually. It came down a lot harder than I thought I expected, because once again, like my resource, so to speak, was really limited. Like it was not logically, it didn't logically make sense for me to make that move. I still did it anyways, right? Yeah. But eventually I managed to had this position as basically like a business consultant, or I guess business marketer in this consulting company. And then I was working there, and actually last year, I'm kind of just like making it all like super compact, but last year I decided to come back to Japan once again, another move once again. Wow. And that was mainly because Olympic was happening, and I was just like really excited about how much expansion Japan will make given this, you know, global economic integration and everything. Now Japan finally is kind of participating with this event coming up, Olympics, right? Like we're going to have lots of more foreigners. And I've actually started looking at some studies around economical impact of Olympics. And then it seemed like it lasts for more than 5 years, even 10 years. Some country lasted for more than 10 years, like in a real term. So it got me really excited about that. So I was doing something similar already with my previous company. So I thought, might as well, I would make my own thing, and I'll call it Foreign Connect, so that I can connect, you know, different markets and then basically help. That's my strength. So yeah, that's who I am.
Wow. I mean, oh my God, that's so amazing. And I definitely give you a lot of praise too. I've had anxiety really hold me back in certain situations, and for you to just go all the way from Japan to the States, and then to another state within the States, and then back to Japan, that's just like so impressive. I don't think people, especially, you know, some people that where English is their main language, I don't think they really get how difficult it is to learn English. And especially if they were to do the same thing, to go all the way to Japan and try to learn Japanese, it's like, it's not a walk in the park, you know? So that's definitely some huge accomplishments, and definitely some milestones and hurdles that you've overcome, and you're successful with it, which is awesome.
Thank you. Well, actually, I feel like I struggled more when I started business. Like that was harder thing to do. But yeah, moving abroad was, I think I'm more international person just by nature. Like I connect with people very well. I have a capability of understanding different cultures, develop empathy to things that's different from me, right? So that's kind of like within my strength. So I didn't have to struggle too much, but I think I struggled more when I had to face with myself a lot when I was building my business. And actually I am still, right? Like today, every day struggle, but you know, it's good.
Well, yeah, with the pandemic too, that definitely doesn't help with it makes the struggles even more struggling. But But yeah, so you did mention Life Up Education TV and Foreign Connect. How long have you been doing those? Like how long, when did that start?
Right. So actually it's been, so I already had the idea, but at that time I was running another online business. So I didn't necessarily pay too much attention on it, but I already had the platform. And it was 2019 May or something like that was when I first like created my website and everything like that. But when I like first really started paying more attention to it was when I stopped that online business. And then basically I wanted to create a shift into the direction of what I wanted to do. And, you know, at the time I was doing a clothing company.
Okay.
But I thought, I mean, I'm still having it, but I thought like media, right? Like media was what I really meant to do. So I started really paying attention to it from probably like a year ago, like a May or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, personally, it's funny that you say that because I think about how I've went to school for certain things and I've had a couple online businesses myself, and I still run things on the side. But it's funny that we start a bunch of different things because I'm the type of person too. I like to stay busy. I like to do new things and stuff. But I knew in my heart, in the back of my head, I always wanted to be an author. But for some reason, I'd always push that to the side. I put my energy in all these other things. And then, yeah, eventually you do get to the point where you're like, okay, this is my calling. This is my passion. I need to actually run with this, even though it could definitely be a scary journey, but it's worth it once you do it.
And actually, like now looking back, like actually I used to keep this like all the diary and everything or blogging and stuff like that. And when I was little, like when I was younger, like really younger, I liked it. Like I liked the writing stuff. And then people actually appreciated my blog. Like I had quite good viewers. I mean, this was like the beginning of the internet era, right?
Yeah.
But people like visited my blog and everything. So I think, yeah, like you said, like it was kind of in me. I kind of knew it that I had to do it. But like you said, like I kind of caught up in my like a daily life, and I got a little bit delayed, but now, you know, now is what matters. So we're good.
And speaking of, we have your book, The Game of Self-Domination. So what, which by the way, I'm going to order. I'll probably order after this. No problem. I feel like, I mean, so I don't have a book out yet. I am working on one finally, finally going to finish one. And I just know how important it is for writers to get that support. We need to sell as many copies as we can. And, you know, so I get it. What is your book about?
Yeah, so my book is about how to create mental transformation in 3 different phases.
Okay.
Like just like for me, like it took me a while, like when I first really made that shift, right? Like I think I'm relatively, well, like I said, like I'm definitely more courageous person comparing to on average people.
Yeah.
But you know, change is scary, right? Like any shift is scary. So I really wanted to get the bottom of it. Like what's the process of someone who's committing to like, you know, I guess going through with the decision. And then I kind of came down to this conclusion. It requires 3 different phases. So I'm going to tell you one by one. The first phase, I talk about how to create commitment in life. Like how can one decide from like, I'm not sure to like, yeah, let's fucking do it, right? Like I'm going to own everything that comes with it. Like I'm actually really excited about all the challenges and adversities that I'm going to probably face, but I'm going to grow from it, right? Like, and I'll basically like give you different angles to look at things. I would even give you a little bit of exercises that you can do on yourself to really get to the bottom of what you want, because I guess that comes to the second phase where I start talking about the importance of self-awareness. I talk about perseverance, right? Like the importance of perseverance, because well, so to speak, committing to a decision is easier. Like it's all about emotion. It's all about momentum. Like you have to just hit to some sort of emotion that moves you dramatically and just makes you commit. So that's the first phase. But then the second phase, once again, is slightly more important because a lot of people fail. Probably, okay, so let's say 90% of people successfully, well, 90% of the people who read my book, for example, right? Let's just say, right? This is not actual fact, but let's just say. And then, you know, the reason I say this is because I'm practical. I like to stay practical. That's why I say that, because it's not because it's my fault that people don't commit. It's just people are scared, right? So even if I tell something, I mean, reality, some people will not change. Some people will not do it, right? So anyway, so let's say 90% of people commit. So 10% fail at that point. But the second phase is what determines like how many people actually go through, right? Which is perseverance. Like how comfortable can you be when you face a lot of challenges, when you face struggles, right? So I will start talking about that, and along with the importance of self-awareness, because here, I guess one part of the thing I talk about is definition of success and happiness. And then there's a lot of talk around, let's redefine the definition of failure, but there's not much talk around happiness and success in that nature. So I wanted to really talk about that. And it's very subjective to individuals, but people kind of outsource that answer to what they usually consume, right? And then they do that subconsciously. They don't even realize it. They do that. So we would have really deep conversation about who you're about, what you're about, when are you happy, what do you really want, and like fuck everything else. Like, you know, like other people's life have nothing to do with yours. Like you have to know what you want, what you are about. And I guess I borrow, this is something I say in literally every single podcast I've been on, but I'm gonna repeat it because I think it's important. I borrow this quote from ancient Greek philosopher Aristotle, where he says happiness is virtue activities of the soul. So meaning that we're driven by two different motivations. One is threat, one is reward, right? And we often see them in the opposite side of the spectrum right here, right? Reward and threat. But in reality, threat and reward only exist in the extension of each other. Well, more correctly, reward only exists in the extension of threat, because only by overcoming your adversities, you are now able to meet your true virtue, true capability, to, like true self. And that's the ultimate happiness. So by saying happiness is virtue activities of the soul, your virtues are tested through the journey you go through. And in the end of the journey, now you're finally collectively acquiring and becoming who you truly are. So these are the sequence of events that are opportunity for you to become who you really are, if you decide on the correct direction to move forward to, right? And then you can fuck up anytime. Like you don't have to blame yourself for fucking it up, like fucking up on choosing the right path. Yeah. You can like start all over again anytime, as many times as it takes. The most important thing is you're not going to give up on yourself, right? So this is why part of the reason I named my book The Game, because, you know, life is not that serious. Like it's a game. You can, if you fuck it up, you can start over again. If you fuck it up, you can start over again. Like don't bully yourself, blame yourself to the point where you say, no, I'm so worthless. I'm like, you know, I can do this, right? Like, you know, you cannot judge yourself for being that way, right? You just have to pick your shit up and then keep moving. Like, so that's the point of perseverance, I guess. Yeah. And then moving to the third phase, I guess it's kind of connected to the second phase that we just discussed. I start talking about life in a macro sense and life in a more, I guess, micro and practical sense. And there's definitely a difference in these two concepts. But when we look at life in the frame of universe, like in the frame of, not in an individual, like a daily life scale, but in the scale of, you know, universal time, in the scale of like us just being in this tiny portion of the entire humanity, like existence of humanity. Like our life in a, this sounds kind of wrong when I say it, but it makes sense. Like our life don't mean shit. But that's not to say that like, so you don't have to do anything, but this is to say that remember that whatever you do gotta make you happy at the end of the day, right? Yeah. And this is why I also still talk about the balance between practicality, which is like your daily, right? Like your daily ambition that actually makes you keep going, versus the macro sense of life. And then for me, for example, like honestly, I kind of suspect that there's no purpose in my life, right? In a like a very big picture. That's what I think. But the purpose of life, I think, is to live it totally, to live it in an ultimate sense for me, that's specific to me. For me to do that, I want to create the world. I guess I want to spread the message of positivity. I want to spread the message of empathy. I want to spread the message of love. Why? Because by doing that, I can create opportunity for creating effect on others. Like these are the emotions and feelings that all beings, all living beings, including animals, including human, like all beings need in order for them to strive, right? Like love and inspiration, these are the feeling that we all need to strive in our life. So for me, what I can do is what I think I can do for my best. And that's it. I don't have the ego of I have to be the best at it. Like I have to be always correct. I have to be like the smartest one. Like I don't have that ego. What I have is I just want to play my part of contributing as far as I can to in the way I can to the humanity, through spreading the message of love, through spreading the message of inspiration, possibility. And in the macro, that's what drives us as a humanity to progress, make a progress to the next generation.
Yeah, that is, oh my God, I can't wait to read this. I definitely love that process. There's a lot of things you said too that I definitely agree with too. And I think we as human beings, we are capable of so much, and more than we even imagine sometimes, at least for some people. I think I know I've been in these phases too when I've been going through depression and stuff and I just think about other people where they are in their daily lives and they feel like they need to just keep doing the daily grind. They don't love it though. They like completely hate their lives, but they feel like they need to stay in this cycle. And it's like, you're not living anymore, you're just existing.
And I understand that too. Like it's also practicality and our thinker, so to speak, our thinker try to attach meaning to everything, right? And then that's basically the function that we have for survival. But for me, I guess I used to be the same way, like especially when I first started building my business and everything. Like I never went out. Like I always felt guilty if I went out, or like if I was spending any time not working, I felt extremely guilty. And I didn't do that. But one day I noticed, like, why am I waiting to be happy? Like, what am I waiting for, right? And from that point, I kind of decided that because I come from like such a grateful place where I'm already happy just by being able to exist in this world. Like that's probably the craziest chance I've ever had in my life. Like I don't necessarily feel like want to waste time feeling bad about blaming myself and like all that. I think because I learned how to kind of come from this like very positive place and very aware place, I think I kind of learned not to have any of my happiness of hostage. And this was actually big moments, because when you're ambitious like me or like you, like it's kind of hard. It could be kind of hard for people to not grind, right? Like they
It is,
blame
yeah.
on themselves. Yeah. So it was actually really, yeah, one of the big, I guess, aha moments for me. So that's why I wanted to share. Yeah.
No, it's awesome. We do have to take a quick commercial break, so
Yeah.
we will be right back. And we are back. So before we get into more of today's topics that we wanted to get into, I just wanted to ask you quick. You mentioned about a giveaway for your book that people could earn a copy for free. So how do we do that?
Yeah, so you can, what you can do is actually there's a page in a website. I think it's called, actually, I'm going to give it to you, the links, and then people can go to it.
Perfect.
And in order for someone to get the book, I want you to follow me on all my social, and then I want you to just leave me the review, and I will send you the code.
Oh, awesome. Okay, maybe I was gonna say maybe I'll do that for me, but no, I'll actually buy it.
Yeah. So just another side information. This one is for ebook. Okay. And then you can download it from EPUB, PDF, or MOBI file.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I'm a book holder anyway, so.
Do you like hard copy or do you like ebook?
Personally, and this could just be for me, I weirdly like the book version, like the hard copy. I think because so I've gone all the way up to going for my master's in school and in psychology, and there's just so much reading, and a lot of it was online reading and reading about certain experiments. So looking at a screen, I start getting headaches when I look at it for too long, and I'm like, oh, I don't. So I like going back to a book and feeling like nostalgic.
Yeah, no, I totally get it too. I do both, but yeah, I'm also a hard copy person.
I definitely get the appeal of the ebook, but yeah, that's just me. And then speaking of, because you said follow you on your social medias, what are those? Like, there's going to be links to in the description, but if you wanted to say what they were.
Yeah. So my social media, my name is always Life Up Education TV. You can find me on TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn.
Awesome. All right. So let's look at, there was a lot of topics and they are really exciting. So we're going to get into how everything is your fault when you are a true owner in your life, and how that actually creates peace of mind looking at your future, and how to own rejections and failure. I want to say you were starting to touch a little bit on this earlier in the episode, but let's definitely get into it. So I'll let you start.
Right. So let's talk about how everything is your fault and you can actually have a peace to it when you are able to accept it, right? So, I heard this very interesting thing from someone other day, actually. People, well, I guess it's connected to people hate taking blame, right? Like people hate taking accountability on their actions and responsibility on their actions. And actually, ultimately, that makes them miserable, because you feel like you have no control on things, right? So that's one part of it. And then the another part of it is, like, if you really want to win, like for me, like, for example, humanity is a big theme that I feel very passionate about. And just really like livings, right? Like, I mean, lately I watched some videos on like, shelter dogs and everything. And it just like makes me really just like, this is just one of the things that you just feel really attached to, just by naturally. But the same thing, like you can't love something when it's doing you a favor. Like you have to love it when it's not doing you for a favor. Like entrepreneurship, humanity, anything. People like it when it works in your favor. People don't like it when it doesn't work in your favor. But like entrepreneurship, business, like management, humanity, capitalism, anything, it doesn't work like that. Like it's just gonna be how it's gonna be. And you're not the center of it. So you have to learn how to take a brain, how to like it throughout all the processes. It's just part of your journey. And I think a lot of people try to find a reason to blame things, not to be accountable for what is actually going on right now. And then that really just kill themselves, right? In reality, they have 100% control. Like if something happens, even if it's unfair, even if it's not your fault, by the time you finish screaming how unfair your life is, you lose. So you have to learn how to just be like, okay, well, this is shit, but I'm just gonna, I'm just gonna stay practical. I cannot run away from it.
Yeah, I mean, that's definitely true. And unfortunately, a lot of people have felt like it was too much, that too much was their fault. And when, certain things are out of our control too, but I do think we do tend to put a lot on our shoulders, that everything can be our fault. And then, like you said, it ends up leading to self-harm or suicide. And yeah, no, go ahead.
No, the part of the reason I said it is because, well, actually, I didn't really have an intention of like touching on this like really heavy topics, right?
Oh, sorry.
Like, stuff like that. But one thing I would say is I like anything productive, right? Like I like to say productivity. And I mean, I'm really all about that. Like if something doesn't produce, like I don't see value in it. Like that's just how I am.
Yeah.
And in terms of productivity, when we speak about productivity, your cynicism, your like dramatic emotion, negative emotion, like those things won't create anything for you. You know what I mean? Like if you want to produce, you have to stop being so bitch about it. Like you have to like keep going. Basically. Like I come across like really hard, tough person. But I can be very bubbly. I just like say stuff in this way because it resonates with me. I react to tough love the best. So that's why
Gotcha.
I use certain language. But yeah.
No, you're good.
But I don't try to be there. I'm not trying to be there.
Oh no, I get that. And yeah, people are definitely, they respond in different ways. Like you said, you're a whole tough love approach, and then other people, that doesn't work for them as much. I feel like with tough love, it is important. Like, even if you're not someone that is like, oh, that doesn't work for me, there are moments in life where like you just need to, and like, excuse my language, but you just need to wake the fuck up in certain moments where it's like, because time isn't stopping. Like I know I've been in certain personal issues where, for example, like a really bad breakup, I'll just say, for example, where after like a year of a breakup I had in my life, I still was wallowing in that sorrow. And it's like, time is not freezing for that. No, like we're wasting time over doing stuff like that. And like, there's no value in doing that, at least for that long, especially. Like, I think it's important to mourn over certain things, but yeah.
Like, it's so crazy to think about this, but like, it's so crazy. Like your life, everything you built today, right? Like it can die tomorrow. Like you can wake up and you can lose everything that you have right now. Like it's just so crazy. And when you have that perspective, like you just like, you have to stay ready, like, I mean, bitching and whining about how unfair it is that you lost everything overnight won't produce anything. If you have that time to whine, like you gotta keep going to make more.
That is such a good tough love quote. I just picture someone like, not to like lightheart this or anything, but like someone's house catches on fire and it's like, no, you need to keep going. No, but I think, I think, in certain situations where we feel like we lose a lot or we lose everything, our emotions, at least for a lot of people I've seen, our emotions do tend to kind of overwhelm us, control us, to where it's harder to think logically or practical, because right now you're in the moment like, oh my god, I lost everything, when
But this is why like I'm really big on like productivity, right? Like I guess going back to what we discussed earlier, like I have a perspective on macro sense, and I have a perspective, I use the language that I said, daily practicality. when I describe micro view. And I intentionally use that word because I have a perspective on macro view, but as much as I have that, I also pull from the opposite direction, like practicality. So I'm not all about like, let's just be happy, like everything is okay. Like I'm not all about that. I actually like productivity. I actually like to produce something. Like I actually have this ambition to want to produce something. Even if I know my life doesn't mean anything, I actually have this ambition to want to deliver and maximize any output that I can come out from this life, right? So I'm really obsessed with the topic of productivity. That's why I guess, when we talk about just the perspective of pure productivity, I understand that there's like consequences and situations, but after all, like when we focus on productivity, these emotions won't do good for you,
Yeah. No, and I agree with that. And I like that you said that too. And that because productivity is really important and it's what keeps the world going. And
Yeah.
and when you said the be happy thing, that is such a good point. We see quotes flying around everywhere that's like be happy or this and that. But then it's one thing to read those things or to like post about those things. But then when you're not actually putting the action behind the words and creating the action to make yourself happier, like then it's kind of like you're just, yeah.
And like, yeah, to your point, I think they don't have to exist in the opposite side. Like once again, coming back to, like everything kind of have a balance in its place and everything like that. Like it's really depending on how you see it. And actually I had really crazy idea the other day. Like, we have words create definition. So meaning words create boundary for our intention of what we want to describe, right? Yep. But imagine just for a second, like if there's no word to describe anything, let's say that we don't have a word to communicate, then everything is concept. There's no boundary, there's no definition for anything. And then that gets rid of, one side to the other side. Actually, everything is kind of interconnected. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then when we think about that, it's so crazy because nothing is definite in life, like everything is always kind of requires different balance. Like, some balance requires, like, for example, macro, micro, like sometimes it requires this much of macro view, this much of micro. Sometimes it's like vice versa, like, like, so everything, there's no definite thing. And in our brain, we like to automate everything, right?
That's what I was just thinking. We love to think that way and think like things can't change for the worse, but they can. And then I think because we're thinking that, oh, this can't happen to us, but then something really bad does happen to us. I think that's why sometimes we kind of fall into this highly emotional reaction to it. Just for the audience, how should they own rejections and failure in your mind?
Right. So for me, earlier today, actually, I had a very similar thought about this topic, very specific topic. So I'm glad that you brought it up. But, I noticed that if I'm liked, I'm liked. If I'm disliked, I'm disliked. And I can't change it. Like I have no interest in convincing others to like me, Like I'll just do my thing. And I think it's actually energy wasted. I mean, if you're a nice person, if you're a kind person, if you're doing things for the good cause, good purpose, you'll win at the end of the day. Like you don't have to spend your wasting energy on convincing others to believing in the same thing you believe. Like if you are good, you're going to be liked. If you're not good, you're not going to be liked. Like I'm not interested in convincing people to think that what I produce or what I create is good. Like if it's good, people should think it's good. If it's shit, people should think it's shit. And that way I can grow more. I can understand the feedback. I can so to your point, like, I think it's pointless to spend time trying to convince others, but instead you need to focus on your growth.
Yes.
Ego will make you lose. Like, number one factor that makes you lose is your ego, especially in business. If you have an ego, too high ego that you can't change, that's how you're going to lose. You have to be always ready to change.
I feel, yeah, that is so important to say. I really hope like businessmen are listening or like CEOs of companies or something eventually. Cause yeah, that is so important. I feel like an ego alone could really hurt a business. I think about, I used to be a manager in companies and how that, how certain egos definitely would affect the productivity and just affect like workers' morale and stuff like that.
Right. And then I guess once again, back to the previous point, the productivity, right? Like, I think that's the point of having high emotional intelligence. Like, when you have too high of an ego, like, ego comes from emotion, right? Ego comes from you protecting your identity of how important you think you are, or how important you think other people are looking at you. But that's still your assumption. That's still your perception. You're scared. You're insecure. But so my point here is that ego is still very, I guess, core, very humanly emotion. And then when you want to play in the market, like, you can't do things out of emotion. Like, that's why it's required it's required, like, in the macro sense, like, you still have to be, good person. You still have to be happy, like, all these things. But once again, practicality, you always have to keep that practicality in your mind. Otherwise you'll lose. I think we mentioned about something like we see happiness and productivity in the separation, right? But they don't have to be separated. Once again, there's no definite meaning to words. Words are what we created. But if there's no word in the way we communicate in today's world, just think about it. It's so crazy. Like, we come up with definition of things, and then we basically see all, I guess, we create definition for concepts. But in reality, if there's no word, which is humanly made technology, without that, actually, the nature don't necessarily have meaning. Without word, everything is concept. So with that being said, I don't necessarily think happiness disrupt productivity. If anything, actually, they compromise each other. And I guess coming back to one of the points of my book, I talk about the power of positive psychology. And actually, this is very true because, I don't celebrate anything. Like, I have small successes every day, and I do recognize them, but I don't celebrate any small or big success in that matter, because I'm already like really happy and really thankful that I can just exist. Like, this is, once again, it's so crazy that I exist. So for me, they don't necessarily interact each other, but because I have this very strong awareness and consciousness about how crazy it is that I can exist in this world, that makes me really happy that I don't employ too much negativity. I don't carry almost non-negativity in daily life. I don't see the struggles to that dramatically. And then that helps me being very practical, because I don't dwell on the emotions, but instead I'm always focusing on let's produce. I'm happy. Like, I'm good. I still have my arm. I still have my legs. I can still read. I can still speak. Like, I have everything I need to succeed. Let's go. Right. So I think they kind of coexist with each other. I guess they don't coexist each other, but definition is what we come up with. and there's a way for those two things to compromise each other.
Yeah, personally, I am more of an emotional person over the practical, but I definitely agree with a lot of what you had to say, and I definitely can understand that mindset as well. But yeah, we're gonna take another quick commercial break, so we will be right back. And we are back. So we had at least one more thing to get into, and that was how to find your own truth when people are against you, which I think another very important topic for people to learn more about. So yeah, let's dig into
it. Like, honestly, I have many answers that I can give you at this point. But one thing that comes to my mind for some reason right now very strongly is the moments when I noticed that, like, you know, I was having lots of self-doubts, you know, nothing was happening to me. Like, you know, it seemed like I was working really hard, but, you know, nothing was really coming to the conclusion or coming to any shape, making any shape. And, you know, people, I also kind of cared about what people thought about me. You know, me over here being broke, like super working, like working crazy hours. Yeah. And then on the other hand, like people with like more chill life around the same age, you know, like the same story. But at the time, like I said, well, but look, like, am I just gonna agree with them that I'm a complete loser? Like, am I just gonna say that, yeah, like this shit didn't work and I'm just gonna join them? Like, is that the kind of degree of commitment that I make? You know, like if you're doubting now, like, why did you even start? You know? So for me, that thinking really brings me back to where I need to be real quick when I ask myself that question. So yeah.
I mean, yeah, I feel like it's just, I feel like that's just an important thing to know. I think about like going through high school and stuff, and I was a very insecure individual, and just, I mean, I graduated high school like about 10 years ago. And so just completely different person. I feel like if anything, I change every year, let alone every 10 years, like, you know, we're just completely different people. So I just think about how I didn't even really, I feel like I almost didn't even really know my identity because, you know, I went through bullying and stuff. And I think people's opinions on me and their thoughts were starting to become, I was starting to let those things become who I really was, even though it wasn't. And I really did have to discover who I really was and that truth. And just, and that's why in general with this whole interview, I like how you are so like more on the practical side, because that's something I needed back then. And that tough love, because it's just when you're in like a certain mindset that is a little bit more on the emotional driven side, you can, I think it's easier to lose yourself, I think.
Like, I fascinate about like coming from nothing and building everything, because it's so strong, it's so powerful. Like,
yeah,
when you have all the resources, when you're given everything, like it's so easier, or it's much easier to create everything, right? Like when you come from like shit place, have nothing, like you eat shit, like, and you have to like become stronger to build something. I mean, that's exciting to me. Like that excites me more than the perfect story without any flaw, without any ugliness, right?
Definitely.
Like, you know, someone said inspiration is when someone talks about you and someone goes, wow, I can't do that. And somehow, like, for some reason that stuck with me a lot. And I think that's true. Like, inspiration is looking at someone or something and just fascinated about like how strong this person is. And that doesn't come from the fact that this person is perfect. That doesn't come from the fact that this person doesn't have any flaw. It comes from the fact that this person, regardless of the flaw, regardless of the disadvantage, regardless of how damaged this person is, he or she is still willing to stand back up, right? Like that's inspirational. That's so strong. That's so powerful, beautiful. And when I follow that, well, I guess because I have this fascination about that narration more than obsessing over perfection, like, rejections and all the ugliness that comes with the journey, I see them as the opportunity for me to be stronger. Like, I'm actually, if anything, I'm thankful that I'm actually becoming, in a true sense, more capable. Like, I don't want to pretend, or I guess I don't want to be given. I want to earn, And I think in the end of the day, once again, happiness is virtue activities of the soul. Those challenges make you stronger and really allow you to become who you are, who you mean to be. So when you look at the rejections, when you look at these hardships, I kind of think that instead of looking at them as something I have to overcome, something negative, I see them as opportunity that I'm excited about going through. I mean, yeah, I get excited about that.
I totally agree too. I grew up quite poor growing up, and I thought of a question too. I was going to say, what do you think, or why do you think people who do receive those resources and they're kind of given a lot growing up, or they're just more, a little bit more privileged, like they kind of just had better cards dealt to them growing up. Why do you think some of those people end up, because some of those people end up failing, or they get into certain addictions, or they end up falling? Like, why do you think that happens?
Because I think when I talk about my fascination, I don't think it's only limited to me. I think it's very commonly for others as well. Yeah. Like, we want something real. We want something that's real, and real satisfy us, real fulfills us. Mm-hmm. Like, especially, I wouldn't say especially, but people are superficial, right? People are superficial. That's because we're insecure, right? But opposite of superficiality, or being superficial, opposite of being superficial is being real. And like when we are real, like, we really, in a true sense, we stop caring about, like, superficial comes from the measure of success according to someone else, not according to you. But real comes from the really important definition of happiness and success comes from, like, your true term, right? Mm-hmm. So when you are able to really unlock that, like, I guess borrowing from a word that I use in my book, like, you're aligned with your goal, your mission, like who you want to be. When you align yourself with your direction, that makes you more fulfilled. You're being real to who you are instead of being superficial. So basically going after and achieving the goals that's set by others. I mean, I have lots of different answers, but I think that's probably one of the most easy and, obvious answer.
Yeah. I mean, I get that too. I think when you're talking about people being superficial too, because you mentioned you have your show as a TikTok account. Like, I think a TikTok, how there's just so many different users on there, and you see kind of like the average user, but then you definitely see a lot of users where their lives kind of look like romanticized because maybe they were like more fortunate, and it looks like, oh, I want that life. But there's obviously,
but see, I think another thing, we are both victim of this, not victim, sorry, guilty of this.
Okay, yeah.
We were born in very fortunate countries, right? Like, in a true sense, we never really suffered.
That is a really good point. Yeah.
Yeah, like, it's ego game, right? Like, I mean, so what? Like, those people you're mentioning, what are their points? Like, what does it have to do with me? Like,
true, yeah.
Are they like just trying to tell you that they're better and you're not? Like, what's their ultimate purpose of making that content? So that you can show off how fortunate you are and others are not? Like, what's the point? Like, that's not the winning game. That's an
Yeah,
ego game.
it doesn't matter. Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. Like, I mean, your life has nothing to do with mine. Like, what am I looking at? Like, you know, like something real is something beyond that. Something real is beyond perfection, like beyond being perfect, beyond being pretty, beyond being whatever, right? Because once again, like that's an ego game that has nothing to, that doesn't have any value in other people. Like you're smart, you're pretty, you're whatever. So like, what value does it bring to others? You know? And I think in that sense, you know, when you have these things, I guess when you have the prettiness, when you have the, you know, expensive car, whatever that you want to show off, that's basically how they're familiar with how, you know, coming from their parents and everything, like how they want to show off their value, how important they are. Once again, it kind of comes from the insecurity of not having the opportunity to truly appreciate the realness of life.
Mm-hmm.
But, you know, they just have to show what they have, and the otherness is absent. So what they can show is that. But yeah, people want something real. So, and then come back to the earlier point, why they want a real, that's because, you know, your superficial perfection doesn't bring any value to other people that watch it.
Yeah. And I totally agree with that too. Yeah. Did you have any final thoughts before we close up?
No, I think we covered
everything.
Yeah.
All right. Well, then I definitely want to thank you for being on the show today. And I want to thank today's sponsor. And I want to thank Sapphire does the intro and outro music for seasons 2 episodes. And I want to thank each and every one of you guys out there for watching and for listening and supporting and sharing and all that good stuff. So I hope everyone has a super special, awesome day, and bye.